Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Tales of Crypto. I'm your host, the Crypto Keeper, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Now, the beautiful thing about YouTube is you have the opportunity to do some good by using YouTube as a platform, and that's what we're going to do here today. If you guys aren't tracking, 3Commas had a data breach where they sold some of the users' API keys, and it cost users millions. Now, I'm going to get into some of the statistics, but just know we're talking in excess of $22 million. Now, one of the big reasons I'm making this video is because I want to help people out. I want to take this opportunity to spread that message as well as give this information to some of the biggest YouTubers in the space, and hopefully we can help some people out. Somebody that is a little bit lost, they don't know where to go, they don't know who to talk to. Well, I'm going to provide that information so that people can find where to go, who's actually taking the case, and some people are in a dark place, and it helps to have other people that have experienced this issue to talk to, and I'm going to provide a place for you to go as well. All right, so first thing we have to do is set the stage a little bit. And I have a friend who was a co-worker, and we've just kind of maintained a relationship, and a lot of our conversations stem around crypto. We remain pretty tight because of that. So he calls me one day and he was like, hey, ETH is dropping down to 1070. And we had talked about that a few times because that was a support level, and that's one that I've talked about on this channel. And he's like, I think I'm going to make a play. And I was like, hey, probably not a bad idea. So he goes over to KuCoin to make his trade, and he was like, you're never going to believe this. He was like, my trading account is essentially gone. And he started looking at it a little bit, and he had noticed that somebody had made a lot of transactions on what we'll call poop coins, because this is a family channel, and it had essentially wiped out his trading account. And all of these coins were low cap coins, right? So what somebody was doing was they were pumping that value of the coin, right? Which means they had a secondary account. So they pump the price goes up, and then they sell, all right? Price starts coming down, but they've already sold, right? So they can then sell, take that money of what's left and do it again, rinse, repeat, because they had a lot of money. So these hackers were able to make a substantial amount of money based on just pumping these low cap coins. So once my friend started doing a little research and realized, hey, like this isn't a glitch, something's really wrong here, he ended up coming across a group. Now, this group was a bunch of individuals that had experienced the same thing. At the time, it was about 60 members, and they had lost a combined $22 million. Now, that has since grown. It keeps growing by anywhere to 3 to 5 members a day. So you can only imagine that monetary amount is increasing exponentially. So when I was talking to my friend, I was like, hey man, like I would love to help as best I can. I'm only a small YouTuber, but I would love to get the message out and push people in the right direction so that they can use the resources that you guys have found in this group. And then he set me up with a guy that actually started the group. Now this guy is actually someone with an IT background. So he is no dummy. He really understands the inner workings of how the hackers executed this data breach. And he's very, very confident that that information was sold from somebody that worked for 3Commas. Now, that was kind of validated in a message from the hacker. And I'm going to show you guys that in a little bit as well. But it was very impressive listening to him talk through his understanding of the scripts and how the hacker actually executed all these trades and how sophisticated it was. It was smart enough to analyze what coins it was going to execute trades on, which is really pretty impressive if you think about it. So I got this meeting with an individual named Mundi. He's the one that runs the group. And he said that he started getting alerts. A lot of people, including myself, if you execute a trade, I'll get an alert on my phone letting me know that, hey, like a trade's been executed. It's kind of a good fail-safe for you, just in case. So he started getting those alerts, and he was like, well, what's going on here? He goes over to his Coinbase account, and he had noticed that he was losing about 10K every few minutes, all the way up to 60K. Can you imagine that feeling? And just when I was in the interview and talking to him, like you could see the sincerity, and you could see like physically on his face, like the effect that experience had on him, right? It's got to be traumatizing to know that you've lost so much capital that you've worked so hard to build up, so that you can make a better life for yourself and for your family. Because you got to really think about it, like trading, some people get lucky, but a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into it, and all of that was really ripped away from them. So then he turned to recovery mode, right? How can he recover? And, he got as far as having conversations with the CEO of 3Commas. And that conversation, it went nowhere. A matter of fact, this is going to bring me to the first thing we're going to look at. So this alert went out on 3Commas, and I actually didn't get the email from 3Commas. I was at one point a 3Commas member, and I did enjoy their software. I got to be honest with you. I liked it. But I got this alert from Coinbase. Now, initially, 3Commas was saying, hey, this was a phishing attack. They set up a very complex website that looked just like 3Commas, and they were stealing users' information. Well, Mooney thought that was kind of an insult, right? Because this is an IT guy. And, I'm not saying that people can't make mistakes, but the likelihood is a lot less with somebody that actually takes precautions on not to be subject to this exact thing, right? So for me personally, I have that website saved or bookmarked. And so it's not me searching or looking for that website every time. I already have it saved, right? So that's just one way that you can protect yourself. Now, another thing is to make sure that you have two-factor authentication. So I personally have to go into my phone, and I have an authenticator app that I have to plug that number into every time I log in. And then I always get an email or a text saying that I've logged in, right? So another way to back yourself up. But getting back to the story at hand, they essentially were just stiff-arming people. And they said, hey, few people were subject to this phishing attack, yada, 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 no big deal. So the one thing I want you to look at on the security alert is the part that I highlighted. The API keys were not taken from 3Commas, but from outside of the 3Commas platform. We're going to find out later that this is not true. So again, they denied. Once it became indisputable, you'll see later that they finally admitted to there was a breach. And so here we are on the second security update, 23 October. And again, they're saying it was a phishing attack. And I don't even have to highlight this one because they put it in bold. There have been no breaches of either 3Commas account security and API encryption systems, nor the account security and API encryption systems of our partner exchanges. So again, they're denying, right? And I don't know if they're denying it because they don't want to take responsibility for it or they didn't do their due diligence. I'm not really sure why the lack of transparency here, but nonetheless, they kept denying it. I read some other updates and it was very, very interesting, but they were essentially pointing the finger at the users and saying, hey, the users are spreading this misinformation and yada, yada. And they, that's insulting. Like that, it's a slap in the face when you lose that amount of money and then somebody's saying, no, it's your fault, when really it wasn't. So can you imagine how that feels and why people are actually so upset about this and why they're really coming after 3Commas? So I'm sure you guys want to know what exchanges were actually affected. And the list that I have right now is Binance, KuCoin, Coinbase, and Bittrex. Now, I know there's definitely more exchanges that have API keys linked to 3Commas. I know OKX was one of them. They sent me an email actually recommending that I sign in to my exchange through 3Commas and not actually through the API keys, which was very interesting, the timing, right? And later on, I actually got an email from OKX saying, hey, if you have API keys on 3Commas, you need to change them. So it was kind of crazy that all these exchanges knew, hey, you need to change your API keys, but 3Commas was still in denial. Now let's take a look at the letter that the alleged hacker left on Payspin, and this was December 28th. And what it says is, late Christmas gift. When Luna happened, people lost all their savings, people were suicidal about it, and what did the Matrix do? Nothing. Do Kwon is hiding somewhere in Serbia, having a billionaire status, cashing out God knows how much till it collapsed. Now, FTX happened, people lost all their savings, people were suicidal about it, and what did the Matrix do? He got bailed out from $250 million that he stole. How can someone bail out with stolen money? That is how the Matrix works. Now, there is another problem. It's with 3Commas. They sold your information to the biggest bidder, and now they claim that the problem is not on their side. Of course, it's not because there's no bug exploit. You sold this data to us by yourself. At least one of your employees did. We have the whole database. We will be leaking it when we are done filtering your personal information so people don't get doxxed. We will only release the API keys. Do not be sheep. Stand up for your own money and stop giving rich people more money. 3Commas has your money. We did all of this just to teach everybody a hard lesson. Crypto is not as safe as it looks, and there are still bad people who hate crypto but are on top of it. This has to end. Who are we? We are Do Kwon's and SBF's nightmares. We will be coming for you too. Everything that is related with you will feel our wrath, and much more people that are underground but still have influence on the crypto world. Yes, we know who you are. Merry Christmas, and we are really sorry about this, but if this tweet would have gone out earlier without some action, none of you would believe us. Attached, you will find a small portion of 3Commas database will be published full randomly in the upcoming days. Over 100,000 API keys, Binance, and KuCoin will be published full in the upcoming days. Links will update if it gets down. And then as you can see, there's links there that have the files. Now that letter absolutely makes me furious. And the reason that is they're mentioning users, how they're suicidal, and it's because of Do Kwon and SBF, yet they do the same thing. They've taken people's money, and for some of them, it's their life savings. People are now suicidal because of what you are doing. You need to take responsibility for what it is you're putting people through and what you're subjecting them to. Because this isn't cool. You could have found another way to make a point or to prove a point than taking users' money, and then you're profiting on it. So where's that money? Where's the money from your other script that you were running at the same time while you were liquidating their accounts? That's what I want to know. Seriously, what makes you any better than them? All right, so fast forwarding a few months later, you can see now that 3Commas has changed their tune a little bit, but it's kind of late, right? You see that they published this initially on January 2nd and then updated again January 11th. Now, just above where I'm speaking right now, you can see on the right side there that they're acknowledging the fact that, there was an issue with the API keys. They're trying to take measures now to actually update the security of using the API keys. But this is after millions and millions of dollars have been lost by users. Now, the question is 3Commas going to make right by those customers? All right, so if you were a victim of the 3Commas data breach, I'm going to provide you a few places to go. Now, this is the first one. So I told you I spoke with Mundi. He's the one that actually runs a private group. So this is not it, but this is his page, and this is how he's screening people to get into that group. So be prepared. You're going to have to send a few screenshots to validate the fact that your account was legitimately hacked. Now, do understand that it's not going to be any personally identifying information, but you do have to validate the fact that it did happen, right? They don't want a bunch of people getting into this group. It is a private group. They don't want to make the group public. And that's understandable, right? Because you don't want a bunch of people flowing in there and just causing a ruckus or talking crap, because, that happens too, unfortunately. And there's people that are experiencing a lot of pain here. So, it's a place where they can commiserate or they can get updates and continue the flow of information. So I do highly recommend that you go this route. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's also fine. I'm going to provide you some additional resources as well. All right, so another option for you is going to be the Wilshire Law Firm. Now you can see they are pursuing a U.S. class action against 3Commas. You are going to have to provide quite a bit of information as well as proof that you were affected by the data breach with 3Commas. But you can see I did put the address right there. I blew it up for you so you guys can reach out to them and you could actually call them. My buddy did that. So he wanted to validate that this was legit. So he called them and they did confirm that they are pursuing a class action against 3Commas. So again, this is another option for you if you guys aren't comfortable with joining the group. that I mentioned before, which I still would recommend. I think you'll get some more up-to-date information, as well as actually have people that have gone through the experience. And sometimes that just helps. All right, so the last option I have for you is to actually go to ic3.gov and file a complaint yourself. Now, there is an open investigation, and you can see if you read this that some people are actually letting them have access to their exchanges to help with the investigation. Now, you will have to provide some information about yourself, and I would imagine some sort of proof that you were affected by the data breach. But again, this is just another resource for you, and I'm going to put all of this in the description down below. All right, guys, so we're going to wrap this one up. I really hope that, if anyone was affected, they learned something, or that this will help them, because that's the whole intent of this video. I'm not going to put anything about likes, subscribes, any of that. I'm not putting any affiliate links down in the subscription. All I'm going to do is put the resources down there, and I hope I can help one person. That's the whole reason for this video.